Sometimes anime requires a leap of faith.
That's for sure.
You show up and enjoy the opening music in animation, and you just have to hope the actual show measures up to the description that got you to check it out. Or the description was no good, but you got curious anyway. I recently took a leap of faith on an anime called True Beauty, an anime that seemingly has a bad reputation.
You make it sound like it's a bad kid in school. That bad reputation is people think it's girly and dumb. People know shoujo anime are supposed to be girly, right?
One of my favorite anime channels, Mother's Basement, recently did an anime trash video for summer 2024, where he talks about what he calls the hottest trash of the season. The shows so bad they're good, or just sometimes, oh, so bad. I love his videos like this. They're great for finding anime that I might otherwise have never heard of. Or they're actually good for a couple laughs. And sometimes it's fun to just hear Jeff talk about how trashy something is. But when a show I genuinely liked popped up on his trash video, and not in a good way like sometimes happens where he knows it's trash but he also unironically enjoys it, no. This time he called it lowest common denominator trash. Something that anyone over the age of 18 would throw up at. And I know this video at this point is 3 months old, and he only talked about it for maybe 3 minutes, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to rant about True Beauty like a crazy person for a while. And I hope that's okay with you, Jeff. Why am I talking to Jeff like he's ever going to see this? He's never going to see this.
Hi, Jeff. I bet you forgot you've made this video by now. Or that this anime exists. I don't blame you. She's got stuff to say anyway, though.
It seems like anyone talking about this anime can't stand it for one reason or another. People don't think it measures up to the source material, Webtoon, or the K-drama that came before it. I haven't seen the K-drama or read Webtoon, so forgive me, but I won't be bringing those two up to compare this anime to. Most people who never saw this anime or never heard of the original stories think it looks like shallow drivel with the message that makeup will solve all your problems if you're ugly.
Is life hard? You should try makeup. It will change your life.
And I'll admit, at first glance, I can absolutely understand that reaction. But speaking as someone who experienced being bullied in high school for being ugly, but not nearly as bad as this show shows it, I gave the show a chance. And I think it has a lot more to say than what first meets the eye.
I mean, I don't know. It would be a pretty good ad for Sephora.
And for anyone who needs this, I'm giving you a content warning now. Some of the show gets surprisingly dark. The show even has a 14 plus rating on it, so take that as you will.
Yeah, that's no joke. I didn't expect the show to go there. And spoiler alert for anyone who cares.
Bullying is a pretty common trope in anime, but not that many really explore it past being unimportant bully characters that propel the main character to do something or leave a situation. In True Beauty, I'd argue, its anti-bullying message is one of the main themes of the entire show. Multiple characters in True Beauty face bullying to varying degrees. The main character, Juk-young, we meet being bullied by her two specific tormentors, who have nicknamed her Dumpling, as an insult to her looks, but also because they've made her their own personal gopher, being forced to bring them dumplings whenever they demand. They keep Juk-young around to essentially boss her around as their errand girl, while making sure she feels like the absolute ugliest person in the world, any chance they get. Generally, people bully because it's a way to get what they want, and a way to establish dominance over others. A way to seek power. In the case of this show, we see bullies mostly seeking dominance over people they see as weak. Juk-young was bullied and turned basically into a slave, which mostly kept the peace when she'd do whatever they say, but when she tried to ask out a boy, just as friends, after someone had been nice to her for the first time in a long time, the bullying escalated to violence. And that led to Juk-young somehow being kicked from the school, because she tried to reach above her status assigned to her. I don't think it was ever about her being so incredibly ugly that people bullied her. It was about a couple girls who needed to have someone they could dominate, so they felt powerful trying to put her in her place. This is the kind of bullying I'm familiar with too. And since typically when this happens, other people don't get involved to protect the bullied person or stop the bullies, it becomes a cycle that only ends when they get separated. Bullies seek out people they can do this to, almost like a shopping trip, scanning their peers for someone they could use as a good target. They tend to pick someone who isn't very assertive. They radiate fear. For girls, it's generally people they think they can easily manipulate. Juke Young is, at the start of the show, the perfect example of someone who doesn't stand up for herself and will kowtow to anyone cruel to her. Calling her ugly was like a magic wand for these bullies to get whatever they wanted out of her. In reality, she's not especially ugly, she's just not especially pretty. Jeff from Mother's Basement pointed out the way she's designed. She's like a conventionally attractive actress trying to win an Oscar for being so brave, for going on the big screen with no makeup and wearing glasses. Yet another rendition of Ugly Betty. He was saying how it's animations, they should have made her uglier because they can. But again, as someone who has been bullied for being ugly, I know how little it has to do with what you look like most of the time. Most people who get bullied for being ugly are just average-looking people with low confidence. A sitting duck for people with misplaced aggression, lack empathy for others, and think too highly of themselves. Juke Young sees herself as ugly, not because of objective fact, since for the most part, ugly and beautiful are subjective, and a lot of the time are based on beauty standards centered around racism, ableism, and ageism. She sees herself as ugly because she's told she's ugly so often. According to Psychology Today, the people who are most dissatisfied with their own appearance tend to be people who experienced the most peer pressure, family pressure, and media pressure around how they look. These tend to be people who monitor their appearance the most, staring dissatisfied into mirrors, like we see Juke Young do on the show anytime she's not wearing makeup. Something we can't overlook here is context. On top of the psychology of bullying, we also need to consider the fact that this is a Korean cartoon, and the Asian beauty standard is a lot more cutthroat than a lot of us in the rest of the world. So those of us living in places like Canada, America, and the UK, etc., might look at Juke Young and think she looks normal. According to beauty standards where she's from, she may very well be considered ugly. It's by no means the only thing that matters here, but it's something we can't take for granted. So being bullied for the way she looks starts to make a lot more sense when she's seen from that lens, unfortunately. On top of that, in society, we tend to take cues from each other in terms of status. If a frightening group of girls has deemed another girl as low status, people rarely stand up to them in that situation. If one girl is singled out as low status for being weak and unattractive, few people go against that if they don't know her. The bystander effect kicks in, where most people assume it's not their job to do something. Most people are either entertained by the spectacle, join in, or are too afraid to get involved to avoid becoming the next target. It's why bullying is so dangerous. It so often gets ignored or completely mishandled, so that the victim ends up being punished the most for letting it happen. So yeah, as the victim of all this, Juke Young got kicked out of the school. But Juke Young is not the only one in the show that gets bullied. If you want an example of how they handle boys being bullied on the same show, True Beauty gives us that too. In a series of flashbacks, we see a short, thin boy getting bullied often. So often that he brags he knows all the best hiding spots in the school. We find out he is, or sadly was, best friends with the main two boys on True Beauty, Suo and Sojin, a few years ago in middle school. The boy wasn't bullied for his looks. He was just another easy target because he was small and afraid. He was resilient, though, telling his friends, "This too shall pass." But, eventually, it came to be too much for him, and he took his own life. In a dark turn that came out of this show when I wasn't expecting it, it was implied for a while that there was some sort of dark past between Suo and Sojin, but when you finally see what it is, it's a punch to the gut that is relevant for the rest of the show. The lasting effects of their friend being gone deeply affects the two main boys on the show long afterwards. It's handled tastefully and deeply, with Juke Young clearly reminds Suo of his friend. Suo learns that Juke Young had a history of being bullied at her old school, and it's why he takes her need to hide her face so seriously. Not because he sees her as ugly, but because he knows that this is a way to protect her, the way he protected his old friend and can't save anymore. If makeup is what makes her feel safe, and she doesn't want anyone to see her without it yet, he takes that deadly seriously. This show genuinely goes into Suo's feelings of guilt and loss from his friend. Details that I won't go into here because I do genuinely want you to watch the show. Led him and the other surviving friend Sojin to have a falling out, and for Suo to emotionally shut down, unable to even cry after what happened, until Juke Young helps him grieve, and likewise helps her feel safe to let some of her walls down, even going to a sleepover with her new friends in school without makeup, something he really had to urge her to feel safe to do. Because with real friends, they're not going to bully her for looking different without makeup. The world isn't actually out to get her. It just feels that way after all she's been through. The thing to remember with people who have been severely bullied is they tend to think they deserve it. They wouldn't be treated that way if things were different, if they looked this way or acted that way, or like there must be something fundamentally wrong with them, something everyone else can somehow see, so it's their job to hide it. For Ju-kyung, the way she's doing that is makeup. And since it got her such a positive response in her new school, it became her armor, her shell to protect herself from what she thinks is a world that doesn't want her to succeed. For most of the show, the only one she feels safe enough to see regularly without her makeup armor on is Suo. Likewise, she's the only person he's been able to open up to in years. The show makes it a point that makeup doesn't solve Ju-kyung's problems. In fact, she finds herself at the mercy of a bully in her new school. Another form of bullying is more subdued at first. This bully was direct competition for the goddess competition at the school. It's implied that it's like Homecoming Queen, except there are a series of challenges they need to do to stay in the race. And the winner has a shot at basically an entertainment career as talent. So competition is fierce. The winner for the last 2 years wants to check her out as competition. And when she meets Ju-kyung, it's clear that she knows her place and sees herself beneath the other girl. It doesn't take long for this new bully to formulate a plan to take her down a peg, so she won't be much competition. After pretending to be kind, she sets up a plan basically to record her, basically half naked, to expose how she's not that impressive to the rest of the school. Her plan backfires, and Ju-kyung is shocked to discover they were never friends. In the past, she would have let this get to her. She'd drop out of the goddess race, let this horrible person get whatever she wants. But after all the work she's put in, after all the time she spent with her real friends, and especially Suo, this time, she had the confidence to stand up to her, this new bully, and say she won't back down. She tells her new bully, to her face, she's not scared of her, and she can't be treated that way. She does notably put on a little extra eyeliner that day, her war paint.
I have no idea that was supposed to be taken seriously, but I laughed so hard at that.
The show deals with a lot of heavy themes with the bullying I mentioned above, but manages to keep the tone of the show, for the most part, a lot of fun, balancing the dark reality with many zany antics that never feel too out of place. Antics like what comes from a girl who sees herself as ugly, who now has 2 guys with crushes on her, and she has no idea they feel that way because she doesn't think of herself as someone special enough to like that way. Is it a love triangle show? Yes and no. It's certainly an element of the show, but I don't think it takes over. Personally, as I watch the show, the more invested in the friendships I get. But I know I'm in the minority here. Suo and Sojin haven't been friends in 3 years. This is the first time they've even faced each other since the incident. And slowly over time, they're having to deal with each other. It leads to a lot of tension, but also a lot of funny moments. Like the 2 of them being talked into wearing animal onesies at the girls' sleepover just because their shared crush was used as leverage by one of her friends. Or when they raced to win Ju-kyung a stuffed animal at a carnival, only for her to not care about the stuffed animal at all in the first place, and she had no idea why they left. It's a love triangle that I think could lead to more friendships than romance. Although, spoilers from Webtoon and K-drama land, I've already had some idea which one ends up with the main character, if that's what you're here for.
Wait, no, don't tell me. Sojin is my favorite, and that's all that matters.
If girly shows about cute boys vying for the attention of a cute girl who's running for a goddess at her school isn't your cup of tea, that is totally valid. And frankly, it's not usually mine either. But something about the way this show could do both that and the heavier themes and still be enjoyable to watch, it hooked me in. And now I genuinely care about the characters. Watching them slowly overcome fears and internalize misconceptions about each other and themselves. Watching them come together so they're not isolated anymore. Seeing them have fun when it's pretty obvious that they haven't had fun in a long time. It isn't just some brain-dead wish fulfillment anime where a sad girl suddenly becomes beautiful and gets a happily ever after. There's so much more under the surface. And we need to make sure we're not too shallow to see it.
Calling people shallow for calling the show shallow? That's very I'm rubber, you're glue of you, but okay, sure.
In the end, the show stresses the need for connection and that you need to stand up for yourself and have people in your life that you can show your real self to. Learning new skills, regaining old abandoned dreams, being in touch with your emotions. Yeah, sure, a few crushes and silly TikTok dances and fashion competitions thrown in for fun, but that's allowed.
Well, yeah, it's a cartoon. Isn't it supposed to be fun? Duh.
So, Jeff, who I'm still talking to as if you're ever going to see this, If you or anyone was going to write off this show as sweet but mindless, I hope you'd be willing to give it a real shot if you're looking for something to watch. Next time you're looking for a decent anime high school drama that also happens to have a cute art style that, yes, is very reminiscent of Totally Spies, you're right, you might give this one a chance. And frankly, come for the show, but stay for the opening. It's very good intro and outro music and animation that had me hooked in the first place.
And that end song is very Girlfriend from Avril Lavigne, and I cannot get it out of my head. She has played it 50 million times to make this video.
I'll end this with a quote about beauty from the iconic Marilyn Monroe, who said, "Imperfection is beauty. Madness is genius. And it's better to be absolutely ridiculous than absolutely boring." I hope you guys liked this video. It's something pretty different from my usual content, but I felt very strongly about this one. If you're into this kind of thing, I have a lot of other ideas like this, with all kinds of movies, shows, and probably some more anime out there.
I've seen the list. She's actually downplaying how many ideas she's got for stuff like this.
Let me know in the comments if you'd want me to do more things like this. And if you want to stick around, subscribe. I'd love for you to join me in my videos in the future, where I talk about media, art, and writing, anything creative that might inspire you. I want to talk about it.
And me. I took more other videos, and I play games sometimes.
I'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.